Today my son broke character at the breakfast table. He wasn't acting like himself. He wasn't fighting with his siblings, who were unusually quiet. Callie sat silently, pushing her breakfast around her plate. There was no brutal fight to the death over the bathroom. No constant bickering about cereal. Zach wasn't kicking his siblings under the table to start arguments. And I didn't have to shout once. It was far too quiet. "Jonas," I spoke up, looking up from my iPad. It was too quiet, which meant my children were either sick or something was brewing. Jonas, my eldest at 16, was usually the instigator, but he couldn't even look me in the eye. "What's going on?" I set down my iPad, and across the table, Zach flinched, gaze glued to his bowl of untouched cereal. Callie ducked her head, thick brown strands hanging in her face. I knew this stance. I knew my children. Too quiet and guilty. Just like 5 years ago, when they shattered my mom's vase, playing "The Floor is Lava." They'd broken something. I sighed, noticing the atmosphere. Jonas and Zach were clearly trying to stay silent, and Callie was one squeak away from singing like a canary. "All right, as long as it's not your grandfather's urn, I don't care what you've broken, as long as you fix it. Dad's hurting us." At first, I didn't even hear my son. I was too busy reaching across the table and grabbing maple syrup for my pancakes. But then he said it again, stabbing his fork through his breakfast, his voice choked up. "Dad's hurting us." Zach's head snapped up, narrowed eyes glued to his brother, frightened. "What are you doing?" he hissed. Zach straightened up with a tense smile. "It's okay, Mom. Jonas is he's hurting us," Jonas whispered, curling into himself. His eyes found mine, hollow, broken. How did I not notice? How did I not see the shadows under his eyes? The agony creased between his brows. "I'm not staying silent anymore," he whispered. "You two can, but I'm not." Jonas glared down at the table. I fucking can't do this anymore." He broke into sobs that immediately broke my heart. I stood and aimed to wrap my arms around my son, but the second I touched him, he flinched away, eyes wide, almost feral. He shoved me back, diving to his feet. "No, get away. Get away from me." Ignoring him, I wrapped my arms around him, and after fighting me, screaming and sobbing at me to get away, he melted into my shoulder, sniffling. I stayed very calm, but my chest was aching. I pulled away from the hug, trying to smile. "Show me," I said, steadying my voice. I couldn't scream. If I showed my children I was scared, I would scare them. "Mom," Callie spoke up. "Callie, stay here," I said. "You too, Zach." I turned to my son. "Tell me everything, okay? Everything, sweetheart." I grasped his shoulders. "I'm not mad, and I promise I believe you." Jonas nodded and ran upstairs. I followed him on shaky legs, my heart in my throat. Jonas led me inside his room he shared with Zach. "When you go to bed, Dad comes in our room and makes sure we're restrained." Jonas lifted up his pillows, and there, looped around his bed frame, were chains. Jonas turned to face me. "Ever since we tried to run, he's chained us to our beds." "You tried to run away?" I choked out. "Why?" Thick bile crawled up my throat when my son stepped in front of me, his expression crumpled. "Mom," he whispered, "there's something I need to tell you." Jonas grasped my shoulders, his nails digging in. "But you can't freak out, all right? You can't call Dad. Just listen to me." I nodded, breathless, as he took my hand and led me back downstairs. 5 years ago, a man approached me on the street in LA. I was 15 and trying to be an actor, he said, leading me out into the backyard. He said I would be paid in full every week, $500, for one simple job. Jonas let go of my hand, and all I had to do was pretend to be your son, Jonas. Jonas's hand slipped from mine. But then he stopped paying us, he whispered. We tried to leave, tried to call the cops, but he was forceful. He punched Zach in the face and drugged our drinks at night. He started chaining us up when you weren't here, and now we're prisoners, he sputtered. I'm not even from here. I'm from Texas. I ran away to LA because I thought I wanted to be an actor. But I'm done playing a fucking dead kid. Jonas ducked his head. We just want to go home, Mrs. McCarthy. Jonas shook his head. Mom, he corrected himself. So, we're going to go. Zach's voice startled me. He was standing behind me, grasping hold of Callie's hand. I'm sorry for your loss, he whispered. But we're not your children. He nodded at Jonas. Get your shit, Jack. We're going. Jonas nodded. He gave me a quick hug. Thank you for saving us, he said. And I'm sorry for your loss, Mrs. McCarthy. I stood, numb, as the three of them started toward the fence, and I was reaching into my jeans and pulling out my gun. Something inside me exploded, and I let out a shriek of laughter. I started forwards, pressing the gun into my sweet daughter's head. Stupid kids, I spoke through gritted teeth. I wasn't losing them again. I buried my children once. Never again. Your father ran the auditions, I said, clicking off the safety. I lowered the barrel to Callie's calf. Run, and I'll cut off your legs. They froze, and I took pleasure in my next words. But who do you think chose you?